there! Are you ready for another fun project as part of the Creative 8 Winter Online Stamping Retreat? Now, whether you're watching this after the fact or you've joined us live, you're getting the same project. I'm just kind of pre-recording the video for on the tutorial. So when you do use the tutorial, you can kind of just get right to the meat and potatoes of our project. Now, what I have today, or this time, is another very simply stamped card. Remember, simple doesn't mean boring. We can do some really cool things simple. That's all what I'm all about. And it's a Slimline card. This is kind of the hot trend out there. Have you tried one yet? I kind of like them. It just kind of opens up some design possibilities because of having more space, long and narrow, but it just looks so different. So I have a whole bunch of tips I'm going to share throughout my project about stamping in general. I like to just share lots of stamping tips to make it easier for you. So whether it has to do with the card I'm making or with your stamping whenever you're doing it. And as with all of our projects, it's more of a layout idea. I like to call it a generic project because you can use any stamps, any papers, any embellishments to use this idea. This one's really all about the layout. And your tutorial does have the diagram, so it tells you exactly how to cut the cardstock, and then you grab the stamps and the inks and the papers and create something similar. So we're gonna make one, and then I have a few other ideas to share with you. So let me flip the camera down and let's get stamping. So like I said, I have lots of tips we're going to share along the way. But first, so I can just kind of get a few things out of my space here, I want to show you the stamp sets I'm using for the one I'm demonstrating. We're using Pretty Perennials and Happy Thoughts. Now, I love Pretty Perennials. It's a great, just bold floral image, which really are my favorite. It does have dies with it, but we're not using it because we're all about simple stamping on this card. Now, I have several other ideas I'm going to share with you with 3 other stamp sets just to show this idea. It's really not about the stamps. It's about the layout. And then we're also using the Happy Thoughts stamp set, which I think is a great one. If you haven't picked this one up yet, put it on your next wish list. I love that it has generic, we'll call it all occasion greetings. That's the word I'm looking for. Happy birthday, thinking of you, thank you, congratulations. With this set, you can combine it with anything else and you'll have greetings for whatever you need a card for, along with some great inside verses. And you know what? I'm gonna just have to share, let the cat out of the bag if you don't already know. This is the stamp set that I was able to design as part of my $1 million sales achievement. So I am a little partial to it, but I do think it's one that you're gonna want. Now, that's not why we're here. We're here to stamp. So we are gonna start out with a piece of cardstock to make our base. That's 7.5 by 9. So I've cut that down already, and we're gonna go ahead and score it in half at 3 3/4 to fold. Now I said I was gonna share lots of tips. So here's your first tip. You know, sometimes I don't always score my cardstock, okay? Especially a piece that is a half sheet, you fold it in half, it folds pretty good, it's pretty easy. But did you know that cardstock folds better one direction than the other? And if you're not sure which way, if you take a piece of cardstock and you kind of like try to fold it this way, just kind of gently bounce it, and then you turn this way and you gently bounce, you will feel it folds much easier one way. In this case, it's this way. It's because of the way the cardstock was cut. So normally I probably would just fold it in half. If I was going this direction though, because it does want to fight me, I would score it just to get a better score line. Now, when we're talking about regular size cards and you know, you take an 8.5 by 11 and you cut it the short way, when you go to fold those 2 pieces, they do fold. I mean, that is the way it wants to fold. So scoring is not quite as critical. But if you cut it, what some like to say, I think hot dog style, but you cut it the long way and then go to fold it, I always score those because that's the direction it does not want to fold very well. So we're going back. That was kind of a rabbit trail. This piece, we are going to, like I said, score this at 3 3/4. So scoring does give you a much better fold. I know there's some people that do score everything. And then in case you forget, when you fold something and you score it, you get like a little ridge. So here's our ridge. Here's our little indent. It actually folds with that ridge on the inside, which to me doesn't make sense. That's backwards in my mind. So I always, when I have to stop and think, I think, okay, it's the way I think it shouldn't be. And then since I like nice crisp folds in all my cards, I like to use my bone folder, whether I've scored it or not, just to kind of run over that, and that'll give you that nice crisp fold. So there's our base. Let's just go ahead and set that aside, and let's get to stamping. Now, we have a piece of white, basic white. Actually, this might be Whisper White. I don't remember. I have some of each. Kind of hard to remember to say basic white after Whisper White for, I don't know, it seems like 100 years. So anyway, this piece is 2.5 by 7 3/4. Now again, all these cutting measurements are in your tutorial, okay? And what we're going to do is just randomly stamp the whole background. I am using the new Magenta Madness. Well, it was new in June. We're still calling it June, right? Or new. And we are just randomly stamping. Now, I know sometimes people have problems with random stamping. And look, we got a fingerprint. We'll cover it up. But notice as I random stamp, I tend to just keep turning my cardstock. And the more I turn it, the more the flowers will go in different directions, which helps, stuff not look so symmetrical. And it always helps to get you, off over there, off over here, off over here. You don't want straight lines, okay, with random stamping. So I know some people just kind of have a hard time with random stamping. So hopefully those tips will help a little bit. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to take Bumblebee, and let's kind of do the same thing. And again, I want to make sure I get one right there to cover up that pink. See, can't see anymore. And we'll go there, and then let's just get a little bit there. Part of the thing with random stamping too is you always want to make sure you're coming off those edges, okay? You don't want everything like tucked in there super nice and neat. I think next what we're going to do is let's grab our Granny Apple Green, and we'll go ahead and I'm going to put some leaves on our bigger flowers. Now I did stamp it once, and I'm stamping it a second time. This gives you a little bit more dimension here, a couple of different shades, but here we go with another tip. If you're doing that, which I do all the time, if the first one you stamp, and see if we can explain this. So I'm going to stamp straight off the pad right here. My stamp actually comes off. If I was to go ahead and turn it, see if we can see there. See how we don't get it? It's not all lighter because this part of it never stamped before. So I wouldn't want to go full strength coming off and then turn it and be all the way on the cardstock. I hope that makes sense. It's really hard to explain. But I want one lighter over there, so I'm actually going to ink it up, scrap paper, and then go ahead and do that. So do you see the difference? Do you see right here how that second image had a little bit of the full strength ink on that, and we would have seen it there, and that bugs me. So some things I'm just a little kind of funny and anal about, and that's one of them. So let's go ahead and we're just going to kind of fill this in with some green. Okay, here's the same thing. We came off. So instead of turning it in a second time, ink it back up, scrap paper, and now I can turn it. So there we go with that. So let's just kind of keep filling this in. Love these bright fun colors with these bold flowers. And then a pop of black. So we're going to use this one to do black center on those. And then I've got the 3 little black dots. And we'll put that in the center. And as you can see, I am just working, we don't need one down there, towards just filling this up. So now where we've got white space going, we'll use Highland Heather, and let's use the little flower here. And again, by turning it, it allows this flower to not end up symmetrical, which is what we're trying to avoid. There we go. I think we're filled in pretty good on that. Now, one last thing before we start kind of putting our card together. Oh, you know what? I forgot one. Let's see, where is it? I have the outline stamp that we're going to use here on our leaves. So Shaded Spruce gives it just a little bit more of a pop of color. And again, we're going to do the same thing here. I don't want to do it the second time without inking scrap paper then off, so we don't kind of get a whole bunch of different shades going there. So let's just fill in all of these. I love random stamping, and I love big bold flowers. So this set is perfect. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I have a speckle stamp here. Now, I honestly don't know what set I pulled this out of. There's probably 4 or 5 different stamp sets that have just a speckle image, and what I mean is just random dots. I pulled this out of a set a long time ago. I don't even know if it's a current one, to be honest. And it sits on my stamping desk because I love to speckle things. And it comes from like years ago, probably 25 years ago. We all speckled things. It was the big to-do with stamping. But here's my caution. And I want you to take a good look at this and you're going to see how it changes. When you're speckling, you don't want to ink this up in black and then just stamp it and stamp it and stamp it. And you're going to just overpower and kill these beautiful flowers. So what we're going to do is ink it up. And then very gently, I'm barely touching the paper, we're going to get a little bit of black on there. And notice how, I'm very lightly touching it. Look at the difference from that to that. And I'm not filling it completely in. It's like a little black here, a little black there, and that's it. If we do too much, we're going to just way overpower that. But it just kind of changes the feel of it, and especially that black just kind of, I guess, it helps pop the flowers, I guess would be one way to put it. So one of my favorite things to do. Now we're going to go ahead and put some adhesive. So if you've watched me stamp before, you know that I am a liquid adhesive person. It is my favorite adhesive. It's been for many, many years. I don't know if that color dried real good, so we're just going to make sure to flip it over. I don't want to smear my black if it's not dry yet. Liquid adhesive works great because it lets you kind of slide stuff around just a little bit, but don't use too much. You know, that's the problem. People say they don't like it. It's generally because they use way too much. So here's another tip. See, lots of tips. This is a glue holder that one of my team members actually made for me and gave to me. It's a little votive candle, and she took the top and put a whole bunch of hot glue down there around it. So it stays steady. So when I'm not using my glue, it just sits upside down, which makes it always down at the tip, easy to use. And then when this one's gone, I still use that same cap. I throw this away, throw the new cap away, and grab a new one. So I love my little glue holder. Let's set that aside. And I have a little piece of white here. And on this one, we are going to stamp one of the greetings. Now, when I showed you that happy thoughts, I did say that we had inside and outside words. And this time, okay, I hope I don't get my head in here. This piece is pretty small. Let's see if we can get it centered in there. Whew, I just made that one. We're going to use actually what I would call inside words on the outside for this card. So we're gonna let that sit. And then I'm going to take some white and pink baker's twine. Oh my gosh, when this came back in the new mini catalog, I did a jump for joy. I am a baker's twine girl, and primarily because it's easy to tie a bow and it doesn't add a lot of bulk. You know, I think sometimes some of the ribbons just add way too much bulk. I do tie, and I think I probably said this in my other retreat video. I tie upside down. I just cut the two pieces. And this twine is actually, it comes as a 2-pack with the white and the pink. And so you get both. So I'm like, well, we might as well use both of them. And we're just going to kind of spread those out. I like to separate the two little loops a little bit so that, you know, you see that there's two pieces there. Oop, I got adhesive on my finger. And then go ahead and trim those off. And I think let's move that up just a little bit. And now we're ready to adhere this to the front of our card. Now, once again, this card is all about the measurements and making a slimline card. So you don't need these stamps or these colors, but if you cut your cardstock to the same size that the diagram in your tutorial will show you, you'll be able to make a similar card using this layout, or I guess some people call them card sketches. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and we will put some adhesive on the back of this one and layer it with some shaded spruce, that green that we outlined those leaves in. Then let's grab our dimensionals. Can't make a card without lots of dimensionals. And let's see, we're going to put a good 4 of them or so on here and peel those off and stick this on the front of our card. Let's get underneath those bows. And this one is just a little bit shorter than the base of our card. So we still see a little bit of that granny apple green there. But isn't that cute? Now don't forget, you always want to stamp the insides. So I always on the inside of my cards like to put a piece of either Whisper White or Very Vanilla. Oh, there you go, Whisper White. Basic white, whatever, white in the inside. And you know, you could write, you could write on here, but I think when you put a piece of white in there, it just really kind of finishes it off. So makes it look like, okay, here's the inside, let's write on this. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to just stamp a few more of these flowers. Get that going there. Let's see. I really don't have a plan. I'm just kind of stamping here. You know, this is a pretty big area, so there'd be lots of room. See, I must really have ink on my hands because we smudged again there. No problem. We're going to put a flower over there as well. You know what? So that little guy's not hanging out all on its own. We can do that also. Okay. Now, let's see if we can not sponge it anymore. We're going to use the Thinking of You, which generally I use as the outside of the card, but we'll put it on the inside this time. And we can go ahead and finish our flowers just like the front of our card. And yeah, I think we'll leave the leaves off. I think that's enough on there. We're going to add just a couple speckles. Okay, real gentle. Okay, don't overdo it. Don't kill those flowers. There we go. And then that, we can put adhesive on that and go ahead and put that on the inside. Now, you may be wondering what kind of envelope you're going to use for this. Now, I know some of you like to make your own envelopes. So, if you do, have at it. I'll be honest, I've never made an envelope in my life. So I don't even know how to tell you how to do it. So if you'd like to make one, make one. But what I do is I simply use our business-sized envelopes. Now, these do have the security stuff on the inside. If you don't like that, you can buy them without that, or you could even stick a piece of designer series paper to line the inside of that envelope with. But there is our envelope to go with it. And I kind of have a saying, some of you know it because you've heard it before, no naked envelopes. So we always want to make sure we stamp our envelopes to coordinate as well, so they're not boring in the mail. So let's just find all the right pieces here and stamp our envelope. And there we go. So there is the first card, or the only one I'm going to stamp, I guess. So like I said, it is all about the layout. So on your tutorial, you will have the layout here. It lists all the card dimensions, okay, to cut your card. And let's go ahead and pull in a couple other ones that I made. Now, I'm going to be really bad. I don't remember the name of the stamp sets on some of these that I used. This was an older set that I hadn't used in a long time, but I liked how this worked up with kind of, you know, a spray of flowers going that way, spray of flowers coming down that way. And it just really worked good. You know, this design is kind of something in the middle. You can easily have something coming up and something coming down, which, oh, I guess I did that more in the other ones. And then there's the inside of that one. Now your tutorial will have, it'll have pictures of all these cards I'm sharing with you, as well as the colors and the name of the stamp set I use. So even though I can't remember it, it's in the tutorial. So this is a new stamp set that is in our, the mini catalog that just came out in January. My bow, it looks like the loopity-doop things here kind of got stuck. Here, we'll fix that. We'll fix that later. But here's that idea of coming down from this piece and up from that piece. Now, what I did with this one, I just stamped it in Rich Razzleberry, I believe was my color. And after I stamped it, I used a blender pen to go over some of these flowers. I didn't use any additional ink, but by doing it right away, and you can see on the leaves as well, that blender pen just kind of smeared out that color a little bit and gave it a little bit of a watercolor wash look. The same with the inside. And then my final one uses the fern stamp set, which I think a lot of you have. I know I've used this one a lot. See, there's the speckling. And again, the same idea with the ribbon tied around there. There's our greeting, but you know, we've got ferns going up, down. This one I did add a little vellum fern coming up and down as well. And then there's the inside. So I hope you like this card layout idea. Like I said, it's meant to be generic, any stamps, any colors, whatever you have, but use the template to go ahead and make a slimline card. I think you're going to like making this shape card if you've never made one before. I hope you use this idea a lot over and over as you go ahead and stamp. You know, I just realized one thing I was going to do, we're going to backtrack just a little bit. I do have some of the self-adhesive sequins sitting here. Let me just grab a little tool here. I like to add, because I noticed a lot of the other ones I had different dimensionals or some, not dimensionals, rhinestones and different things on them. So we're going to go ahead and add a few of these. Let's do 3 of that color and 3 of this color. I almost always put everything in 3s. If I'm going to do more than 3, I'm sorry, I want to do 5. You want to do an odd number. So we did 3 and 2. Designers, whether, you know, all different types of designers, art classes, whatnot, they always say an odd number is more pleasing to the eye. So typically I do 3, 1, 2, 3. Here I did 3 and 2, so it's 5. So we still have that odd number going. Here, I wanted to put them in the center of the flowers, and it just really worked out that I had 5. So another quick little tip for you. So I think I'm done. I hope you enjoy this project, and I can't wait to see what you make using this card template as well. So I'll talk to you again soon. Have a stamp happy day.